Yeah, so when we want to run in production, the only way to run even a config change, run a script, is to actually check that script into Azure DevOps and run it through all the different, all the different environments. And that helps prevent environment drift. That helps make sure you're doing everything right. You notice nowadays, TFS, if anyone's using on-prem TFS, like upgrades for TFS seem to be a lot easier than they used to be in the old days when I had a proper job and had to do installs for people. Right. Well, we have bash scripts and we have, there's no Perl in there anymore. But yeah, the point is that we have to automate, we have to check them in, we have to do the scripts, and that's what we do. And we have a lot of PowerShell scripts that go in. And so we deploy to production and we go through these canary releases every single time. And that's and we use release management to do that. So no more partial automation. When we are deploying, we deploy through different rings. So we have all the different servers into different rings. And who was waiting on the dark theme? Who was like, I want dark. Did you know dark themes enabled in Azure DevOps? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. And then you have to wait ages for it. And you're like, people have got dark theme and I haven't got dark theme yet. Like there was a tweet storm of people, were demanding dark theme. Where's my dark theme? And it turned out that maybe because actually most of the European instances are in sort of ring 3 or ring 4. Ring 5 is where a lot of the big US instances are. And that gets deployed to last. So we start off, we've got 5 rings of data centers, of clusters of Azure regions. We start off with one where we have a lot of internal users on, so us and some of our MVPs. And then we go to our smallest external data center. So actually deploy with real people, but the smallest one, so we can figure out if it's going to work or not. Then we go to our biggest data center with real people in. Then we go for our international data centers, so Europe and things like that, because they have the longest latency. And we found once that you get some problems with latency when you're doing especially database upgrades and things like that. So let's go understand that, make sure they work. And then we go do like South US and some of the really big US-based instances. But it means we have at least a 24-hour period before we deploy to each ring to make sure that things have gone through a free Brizzy cycle and that everything is good. So it takes a while for stuff to get deployed. It can sometimes take up to a whole sprint, so 3 weeks, to actually deploy stuff out into production. So somebody's got, like I was demoing dark mode and he's like, dark mode's not available on my account. So anyway, sorry about that. Right, so we had to build a life cycle culture. Oh, I should have left it on because this bit's quite cool. Look, actually, hang on a sec. Oh no, it doesn't matter. It moves, but I broke it. Right. When we were doing, you notice some of these are kind of DevOps-y things, and some of these are very much Agile things. Team autonomy was something we learned as part of our Agile stuff. With engineering, you've got this constant tension between like getting stuff done quickly and getting stuff done in a controlled way. So, innovation versus reliability. And our job as engineers is to get as close to this line as possible. We want to skirt this the whole time. Because you want to be delivering maximum value for your business. But you want to be able to do it in, not as safe as possible, as safe as economical. And see, what we're always doing is we're skirting, Ken Schwaber calls it the edge of chaos. We're constantly trying to get to close to this. Some of us are closer than it feels, it's not comfortable with sometimes. But we're trying to be as close to the edge of chaos as possible without getting too far over it. And that's kind of this natural paradox. And how do we kind of do that? How do we be more agile? One of the things we do with our teams is we like to give teams a high degree of autonomy. Individuals a high degree of autonomy, so you can do what you want, what you want to work on, and teams a high degree of autonomy as well. They can work however they want to work. A lot of this early Agile thinking was driven by a book called Drive by Dan Pink. Great book, read it if you want. If you don't want to read it and you want to watch the 5-minute RSA Animates YouTube video on the way home, then do that as well. Save you reading the whole book because it says about the same thing. But it's really good book. And it talks about with software engineering isn't civil engineering, We're deliberately trying to live on the edge of chaos, deliberately. And so our tooling, our processes, our people have to be deliberately structured to live on that edge of chaos. And so that's why software is very much a creative act, and creative people What makes you happy? If you look at the Stack Overflow survey, the more developers ship, the happier they are. Seeing customers use your stuff is awesome. You know, when you go in the office and you see people using the things you do, when you solve a problem, a real problem, and makes a difference, that's what keeps you awake at night. That's very different to a salesperson. What keeps a salesperson happy? Usually a yacht, or not a fancy dinner. Like, software engineering is don't get me wrong. I want, especially this is getting recorded, I want paid well, okay? But I just generally pay people enough so that money's not too much of an issue. Give them interesting problems to work on. They'll stay there forever and not even notice they're getting paid less than people around them because they've not looked, because they're too busy doing cool stuff. Because I don't know about you, I would kind of do my job as a hobby. Probably not all of my job, especially not performance management and things like that. But the fun stuff, solving problems, coding, I do that at the weekend. It's really good fun. And we find out with teams that you need to have autonomy and need to allow people to get good at stuff without having too much control, but you need a bit of control because otherwise you end up with chaos. So what we do with our organization is we have a certain degree of autonomy. What you do and how you do it is completely up to you as a team. You can run Scrum, you can run XP, you can run Boot Bop or whatever the latest, hipster process is. I don't know. You can do whatever you want. But we do have some alignment in terms of what job roles we have in the company, how our teams are structured, how often we ship. We ship every sprint. Well, we ship multiple times a day, but then we have big sprintly releases as well, where we're doing big database upgrades and stuff. That cadence, the natural cadence, so which trains are going every day for releasing, and then which big releases are happening, that's the natural cadence that we understand. When we first started doing Agile, cadence was in the autonomy section. You could do whatever sprint length you wanted. You could have whatever sprints you needed, call them whatever you wanted, which was cool, but it turns out the lack of a heartbeat was really confusing working between teams and that coordination. And you used to end up, in the old days when you used to have to defrag hard drives, spinning Rust hard drives, you end up with these gaps between sectors that you have to defrag all the time. When you have teams working on different sprints that end different times, there'd always be these delays when you're waiting on a dependency and things like that. So we just found it worked a lot better to have a regular heartbeat for the organization and everybody can kind of knows whereabouts everybody is in the cycle. The way we structure our teams is also the same across Microsoft, actually. So when I first joined, we had program management, so overhead, sitting here in blue. We have developers, SDEs, and then we had what was called SDET, Software Development Engineering Test. So people who wrote test code. People wrote production code, people who wrote test code. It's how we used to be. We then changed that so that everybody in software engineering, everybody who wrote code that shipped in production was in engineering. You're responsible for the code that runs in production. Huge change. So this is the career paths. So you've got program management, engineering, and SRE, software reliability engineer, site reliability engineer, sorry. Or ops, as the short name. So then we take a team, a feature team, and it's a 2-pizza team. So, about sort of 12-ish people. And we come in and we assemble them. So it's a mixed discipline team. We keep them together as a feature team who are delivering value to customers. They own an area. They decide what they ship, how they're going to ship it, when they're going to ship it. As a program manager, I define the job of a program manager is to ship the right thing at the right time. Everything else is just a matter of style. You've got to, knowing what the right thing is and knowing when you're supposed to ship it is the hard bit. But how you figure those out is just completely up to you as a program manager. You can completely decide what you do. Some people do big, documents. Some people do lots of user testing. Some people rely on telemetry. Some people fly by the seat of their pants. It's all different.